The Kingkiller Chronicle introduces us to a world that's rich in lore and mystery. A place where songs hold the weight of history, names wield the force of magic, and myths are told and retold until their origin can no longer be found. But I just want to know about the Tinkers. What's up with that? Seriously, the Tinkers are one of the most intriguing elements in the world of Temerant, in my opinion. The Tinkers are these nomadic merchants with their rickety carts filled with seemingly mundane items. They traverse the four corners of civilization, trading their goods and services, often offering exactly what one needs before that need is even realized. And this foresight is much more than just coincidence. It hints at a deeper understanding of the world and its workings. These are not just simple merchants. There's something seemingly magical about them and how they can influence someone's life in a subtle way. Listen, all I'm saying is that if you come across a tinker, make sure to buy all of their items. In this video, I'm going to discuss the nature of Temerant's tinkers and try to unravel the threads of mystery surrounding them. I'm going to be exploring their role in the narrative and their interactions with Kvothe, go over the folklore around them, and of course, dive into some theories about their magical foresight and what role they actually play. But first, today's sponsor is Magic Spoon, and I'm always so excited to work with them because this is my go-to breakfast option. Magic Spoon is cereal reinvented. It's got that same great taste you loved as a kid, but upgraded with adult ingredients. There's no artificial flavors or dyes, and it's high protein, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, wheat-free, and naturally flavored. The cereal has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs in each serving, and each serving is only 140 calories. Now, Katie and I love the Magic Spoon treats. We bring them wherever. The marshmallow one especially is our favorite, but they also just came out with some new flavors that they sent me, including double chocolate and blueberry muffin. And honestly, the blueberry muffin is my new favorite. The Magic Spoon treats are high in fiber. They have 1 gram of sugar, 11 to 12 grams of protein, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs in each serving, and they're 130 calories per serving. Click the link below to try some Magic Spoon cereal today. You can build your very own custom box with all the flavors you love. And use my code CAPTUREDINWORDS for $5 off. You can choose some of their best-selling flavors like cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, and maple waffle. Plus a ton of other awesome flavors. And of course, you can also add the Magic Spoon treats to your order as well. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, they offer a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So click the link below or use the QR code up above and use the code CAPTUREDINWORDS to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/capturedinwords. Huge thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring the video. Now let's first take a look through history to see where Patrick Rothfuss got the inspiration from. A tinker or tinkerer is an archaic term for a traveling tinsmith who mends pots and pans and other household goods. Tin was an easy metal to work with, and products made of tin were relatively light to carry around. Now the term transferred to travelers who earned their way going from village to village, mending as they went. Oftentimes they were skilled in many crafts, repairing items, selling, and trading hard to obtain goods. In the 13th century, tinkers often traveled in groups, and many Romani people, often known as gypsies, though that's sometimes considered offensive, specialized in the trade of metalworking. Now, tickner or tinkler was a term used in medieval Scotland and England for metalworker, often being associated with indigenous Irish travelers and Scottish Highland travelers, though again the term was often used offensively, and people even used it as a curse word for something insignificant. For example, saying, "I don't give a tinker's curse what the doctor thinks," or sometimes even shortening that to, "I don't give a tinker's about the doctor." Now, tinkers and peddlers were familiar inhabitants of the medieval highways. There were even tinkers' guilds. However, even though they carried on a useful range of trades, they were sometimes viewed with the same xenophobia applied to all wanderers. King James V of Scotland brought in some very savage laws against such wanderers, banning gypsies from Scotland and even ordering them to be killed if found anywhere in Scotland after 1609. However, tinkers who went around fixing common household items were even common in America by the early 20th century. The outlaw William Walters, after getting released released from jail, went back to his life as a tinker, a traveling handyman, tuning pianos in people's parlors and fixing organs in county churches. Jean Cooper, the great niece of William Cantwell Walters, said, "We always called him Uncle Cant. Seeing Uncle Cant come with his wagon a-trinkling and a-bouncing, the pots and pans a-bouncing against each other. You couldn't help but know it was Uncle Cant." Now with that brief historical context, we can see that the Tinkers of history are very similar to the Tinkers of Temerant. Now you might be surprised that the very first time Kvothe speaks in the Frame story, he speaks of Tinkers, mentioning a verse after it's said that a tinker's advice pays kindness twice. "A tinker's debt is always paid, once for any simple trade, twice for freely given aid, thrice for any insult made." Now it is interesting how the final line seems to be of special importance, thrice for any insult made, especially with the importance of threes in the story. This immediately establishes that tinkers are more than meets the eye. Soon after, in chapter 3 of The Name of the Wind, a tinker going through Noir with a traveling group describes himself as tinker, pot mender, knife grinder, willow wand water finder, cut cork, mother leaf, silk scarves of the city streets, writing paper, sweet meats, belt leather, black pepper, lace and bright feather, tinker in town tonight, gone tomorrow, working through the evening light. Come wife, come daughter, I've small cloth and rose water. We also know this tinker sells limes from Tinue, chocolate from Tarbien, and polished horn from Eru, among other things that are unnamed. And as he's selling his goods, the kids surround him and chant the Chandrian children's verse. Now, tinkers in Temerant are not just a simple job title. Tinkers are a constant in the mythology of Temerant. They're built into the earliest of lore, and they appear to be the humblest beings in the Four Corners and respected among the people, even sung about in songs like Tinker Tanner, an extremely old song said to be older than God. Now it's a simple song with many verses, and over the years people have invented new ones, meaning that the true original song of Tinker Tanner might even be long forgotten. Now while Tinker Tanner is sung by many characters throughout the Kingkiller Chronicle, even Kvothe himself, we never do see the full song or even much of it within the books, besides two separate versions of a limerick. In one of Rothfuss's AMAs, he mentioned there's a full verse of Tinker Tanner hidden in The Name of the Wind if you look closely enough, and another verse in The Wise Man's Fear, though not hidden at all. Now I assume the verse from The Wise Man's Fear is the verse sung by the young boy he ran into after leaving the Fae on his way back to Severin. But as for the one hidden in The Name of the Wind, I think I found it in chapter 7, when Kvothe is testing how fast the chronicler can write. It follows the limerick's pattern and structure, and it likely ends in something vulgar, though Kvothe kinda cuts it off at the end. "There was a young widow from Phaeton, whose morals were hard as a rock. She went to confession for her true obsession," and then it likely ends with something that rhymes with rock. I'm not sure what though. Or maybe even lay in the Talin's cassock. Now Tinker Tanner has been sung far and wide, and the legends of tinkers have spread all across the Four Corners, and even beyond. I mean, even Tempe knows that it's bad luck to insult a tinker. This shows how far and wide the tales of them have been spread. It's said that a tinker was the one who gave Taborlin the Great his protective amulet, which was likely either a gram or a guilder. A tinker also appears in the story of Jax, the luckless or lackless boy who stole the moon and pulled it into the Fae, sparking the Creation War. Likely the oldest myth in all of Temerant. And of course Jax is the same being known as Eax, and Felurian says the great shaper Eax is now shut beyond the doors of stone. Now in the story, Jax is a boy with no luck, and everything he touches breaks. He can't have happiness, and he makes a bet with a tinker, who says that if he couldn't find anything that would make the boy happy in his packs, he would give them all to the boy. But if he found something, the boy would have to give him his broken house. Now Jax doesn't find anything that makes him happy in the packs, but upon trying on some spectacles and seeing the moon, he decides that having her as his own would make him happy. The tinker loses the bet and gives up all his packs, and Jax gives the tinker his broken house anyway to repair, before setting off down the Great Stone Road in search of the moon, until eventually it leads him to the mountains. Now I mentioned in my video on Kvothe's lackless bloodline that I believe the broken house house on one end of the Great Stone Road is the underthing of the university, because the Great Stone Road is a direct line from the university to the far east mountains. This is the path that Jax took, so whoever this tinker was, it looks like the underthing, or the broken house, became the foundation of the university. The tinker mended it by building a university upon it. Now perhaps the university that trains arcanists was originally founded by this tinker. It would explain why Taborlin the Great was given a gram or guilder. Maybe he was the first proven to be accepted as an arcanist. Now one of the items that the tinker had in his pack was a book of secrets, and in the slow regard of silent things, deep in the underthing, Ari has a book titled Book of Secrets. On the front cover we see the moon and a burning candle. Now Jax goes on to talk to a hermit who I believe could be the Cthaeh, and he opens up one of the tinker's bags to find a piece of wood that folds out into a house, and the folding house is clearly a representation of the creation of the Fae Realm. The house has many doors and windows, many ways both in and out, and again, this represents the Fae Realm and how the Greystones around Temerant originally acted as doors to the Fae. It's described as having a different sky and different stars, and it even mentions the bedroom being in twilight, which would represent Felurian's Twilight Glade. So this would mean that a tinker was holding onto something capable of bringing forth the creation of the Fae Realm. Again, these beings played a big role in the mythos of the Kingkiller Chronicle. These cozy folkloric tinkers are actually extremely powerful, or at least they once were. Is it possible they still have some sort of power? Let's do a deep dive on all the encounters Kvothe has had with tinkers. In the Name of the Wind, when Kvothe was on his way to Traben, he encounters a tinker. "Hello there! You've got the look of a lad that's wanting something." "I'm wanting a lot of things, tinker, but I don't think you've got any of them in your packs." He gave me an ingratiating smile. "Well now, don't go assuming." Tinker wants his horse, and with Traben nearby, Kvothe is willing to sell it. Now the tinker reveals to Kvothe that it has one white sock, and laughs, thinking that the name should have tipped him off. Kvothe's sleeping mind named him One Sock. The tinker offers a Loden stone, an iron stone that fell from a star, which appears to be a magnet. Now the tinker also offers to trade him a blanket, 2 bottles of strawberry wine, and a coil of rope, but Kvothe turns down this offer, saying he'd rather just have the Loden stone and the shirt, as the rest would be dead weight in his bag. Now it's important to note how the tinker's expression sours at this, and even Kvothe has a vague feeling that he just insulted the tinker. Now later on, when Kvothe is cooking dinner for Denna, he mentions how he turned down some wine from a tinker, and Denna asks if it was strawberry, since that's her favorite. And then later, when Kvothe and Denna are trying to figure out how to kill the Drakis, Kvothe gets a sinking feeling in his gut when he realizes he could have used the rope that the tinker offered him. This tinker outside Traben knew exactly what Kvothe would need, even though it wasn't what he wanted. So tinkers can see the future, at least well enough to know what a person will need, and to hopefully nudge them onto the best possible outcome. But this makes me wonder what would have happened between he and Denna had he accepted the tinker's offer. Would they have averted the entire disaster at Traben? In The Wise Man's Fear, he talks to a tinker in Vintas before heading to the Eld Forest, and this tinker tries to sell him some boot wax to waterproof his shoes. And Kvothe being Kvothe, he turns it down, only to discover that his boots are constantly soaked. This tinker also offers him some paper and ink, which reminds him that he never wrote Denna, so he gets the tinker to promise to deliver a message to her inn. Now Kvothe ignoring and turning down the trades of the tinkers is not only another great way to parallel him and Jax, but also a great illustration of Kvothe's major flaw. Even though he knows the folklore behind tinkers and how they offer a person exactly what they need, he chooses not to accept the trade. Kvothe is overconfident in his own ideas and actions, and him rushing into something overconfident and ill-prepared and screwing things up badly is a reoccurring event, and I kind of low-key love this about his character. It feels very human. Why waste money on the off chance that a silly rumor about tinkers is true? Kvothe being this talented, overconfident person that's always messing things up kind of reminds me of a tragic Greek hero, rebelling against gods even when it's sure to end badly. And in the end, after denying identifying the tinker near Traben, he barely manages to pull through on sheer luck and ingenuity alone, though maybe he could have avoided the destruction of Traben. One of the things I honestly really like about Kingkiller is that when Kvothe reveals what's behind the myth, the explanation is usually 50% luck. Now, I have a strong suspicion that the third encounter with a tinker is going to happen in Book 3, The Doors of Stone, right before some big climactic event. Now, there's also mention of tinkers in the Narrow Road Between Desires and the Lightning Tree. It's mentioned that Crazy Martin once punched a tinker, which was very surprising to Kvothe. However, this wasn't any kind of proper tinker, and more likely a man posing to be a tinker. We don't really know if anyone can just become a tinker, or if there's some special process, or a tinker's university out there, but it seems that people posing as tinkers can be a problem. In fact, Abenthy was accused as posing as a tinker by the constable in the city that young Kvothe first meets him. However, Abenthy also says, "I am not a peddler or tinker. I am both and more than both. I am an arcanist." Does this mean Ben is a type of tinker? I don't know. I mean, it would make sense as he appears and teaches Kvothe exactly what he needs to know to go down the path of becoming an arcanist before disappearing. Kvothe uses the book that Ben gave him as reference to the Masters, and the Masters would never let him in if they didn't already know who Abenthy was. So perhaps old Ben was a master at the university prior to becoming a traveling tinker arcanist, which again fits in with the theory of a tinker creating the university and arcanists having their roots come from a tinker. But the real question is, how do tinkers know what people need? Is their foresight some form of magic, or an intimate understanding of the world's interconnectedness, or something else entirely? What are tinkers? We all know that Rothfuss loves to foreshadow and hide hints all over the place, and Felurian gives us a very interesting clue to what the tinkers could truly be. Most Fae are sly and subtle folk, who step as soft as chimney smoke. Some go among your kind and shaden, glamoured as a pack mule laden, or wearing gowns to fit a queen. We know enough to not be seen. Keeping this phrase in mind, the tinkers could very well be Fae walking among the mortal realm. It does seem kind of odd for the Fae to be glamoured as like the actual pack mule or donkey. But I mean, Bast is almost halfway there. And you know what? Abenthy does have some donkeys that he talks to like they're his pets. In all seriousness though, I think that laden means heavily loaded in this context, and tinkers have large loads to carry, whether it's their cart or a heavy backpack laden with goods to trade. I believe it fits with Felurian's character to call a tinker a pack mule. Not only do tinkers serve the people of the Four Corners by sharing news, trading goods, and kindly offering what the people actually need, but from Felurian's perspective, the service to mankind is probably insulting to her. She's constantly referring to humans as children and looks down upon them as something inferior. She might see a tinker's role as well beneath the Fae and ridicules them, referring to them as pack mules. Honestly, tinkers being Fae actually fits really well into this world. If you were a Fae and wanted to see the mortal world, what better way to travel than as a tinker? People are always kind to tinkers. They don't harm tinkers, and it's a great way to interact with all types of humans. I think this quote from Felurian is strong evidence that tinkers are Fae. Now, their ability to predict troubles ahead and what may aid someone in those troubles could be some sort of Fae magic that we just don't know about yet. But what other being in the Kingkiller Chronicle has foresight like this? What creature knows more than they should? The Cthaeh. Now, perhaps all tinkers are what the Cthaeh once was, only the Cthaeh grew too powerful. Those seeking its aid gave it a bad turn one too many times, and it caused the Cthaeh to become malicious and use its powers for evil, causing it to be bound to a tree and guarded for the safety of everyone. The tinkers have the power to nudge their customers towards the best or worst possible future, just like how the Cthaeh manipulates those that speak to it, sending them back into the world like a plague ship sailing for a harbor. Nobody would dare insult a tinker. Everybody knows this. It's like it's something that's been passed down. Perhaps this was a lesson needed to be taught, as the result was the Cthaeh. If insulted one too many times, perhaps a tinker can use their foresight for ill intentions. Maybe the Cthaeh is even the tinker that Jax rejected, and now it's using its power for evil. Or perhaps all tinkers are acting as agents or the eyes of the Cthaeh, feeding it information like a hive mind from all over the four corners, giving it the knowledge it desires. However, to me at least, this doesn't exactly fit in with how the tinkers appear to be. They're kind and jovial, and they just don't seem like they're agents working for the Cthaeh, unless it's all a ruse. I believe at the very least that tinkers travel between both realms. They know the secrets of the old roads of Faerinial. And if they are Fae, they travel Enshaden, heavy as a pack mule laden, in order to blend in. Now, I have seen many theories from people either trying to fit the tinkers into the groups of Amir or Chandrian, and I just don't think so. I do bet the tinkers are magical in nature, but I don't see them as Amir or Chandrian. We know that tinkers have been around for a long time, possibly before even the Creation War. Little is known about that time, but it could mean that the tinkers are what's left of the knowers, which likely were the proto-human race known as the Ruach, developing their seeing and listening abilities to such a degree that they can tell the future. Maybe not as good as the Cthaeh, but good enough to help the travelers they interact with. Another interesting idea is that maybe the tinkers are actually angels in disguise, forbidden from using their power in anything but defense, and so they go around mending things and helping people. After all, we do know angels are a legitimate group within the mythos of the Kingkiller Chronicle. After the Creation War, some of the Ruach were turned into angels. But let me know what you think about tinkers. I think without a doubt they're one of the most mysterious beings in the Kingkiller Chronicle. I think they actually play a surprising role in the background, and they're part of the mythology of this world. Now, while I do think that we're going to see Kvothe refuse the trade of a tinker for the third time in Book 3, my guess is that we're not going to get anything concrete about their origin or their nature, because it's just too good of a mystery to solve. I think it's going to be left open. And that about wraps up my video on the tinkers and their magic. Now, if there's anything I forgot to mention, any important details, make sure to tell me in the comments, and also make sure to tell me all of your theories regarding the tinkers. If you enjoy the videos I make and you're looking for a way to say thank you or to help out the channel more, then make sure to check out my Patreon. All of the support on there is basically what's made me able to do YouTube full time and make these videos for you guys, so I appreciate that support so much.